right. It's Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor time again. I know we did a show the other day, which it counts, don't get me wrong. And we did our first radio show, which we will touch on in a moment as well. And that counts too. But this feels like the official beginning of the 25-26 Boston Bruins and NHL season. As we do welcome you in to Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. It is a different feel to start this year, my friend, than we had last year. I don't know. I probably should have watched Razor last year's first season preview show just to get kind of a, hey, that's right. That's what we talked about type of thing. But that would be a good broadcaster. We just fly by the seat of our pants. I go into it, but I can probably tell you pretty secure, certainly, that we didn't feel like what could happen was going to happen last year. A year that saw the Bruins fall precipitously or perilously, if that's a word, to the fifth fewest points in the NHL with 76, tied for fewest in the Eastern Conference. Needless to say, it was a disappointing year. Do you remember, Razor, last year going into the season and how different this one feels for you heading into this one?
Well, the only really thing I remember is I know like this show 2 days before Swayman still wasn't signed. So we were still talking about that. That's really what we were talking about.
We had really good numbers talking about that.
Well, of course. Yeah, it was good for business. Less so this year in the drama of camp. I'm sure we said they weren't gonna. I know the other thing I know we said too was that they weren't gonna rattle off 10 in a row like they had the 2 seasons before.
Right.
They weren't gonna win 10, 12 in a row to start the season, and that was gonna be more of a slog. And they would get to their game halfway through the season, which kind of the opposite happened. They actually did kind of slog it out through the first half, and then the injuries and they just fell off the absolute cliff at the end. So my guess is our show from a year ago, it would definitely sound different than this. There were different storylines, and certainly more certainty in our expectations than what they are now. That's the big thing for me. I felt more convinced.
Yes. Yeah. They were going to make playoffs last year. We had that, right? We did.
Yeah,
I remember that
yeah.
We didn't think that they would win the division.
Nope.
But we thought that they would be if I remember correctly, I think I said a 6 through 8,
and we thought they were going to struggle at the start and they would get it and figure it out and they'd be good at the end and they might be a better playoff team. I think that's kind of what I said.
So that's then. This is now. We got a couple of new things with the show, kind of new, maybe not new or whatever, but a little bit different kind of maybe cadence to our shows. Razor's got a new background.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not watching on YouTube, but you're just listening on one of your podcast provider, Razor has now basically gotten himself a mini locker behind him. I see a Raycroft Bruins sweater. I see a Bruins blocker helmet, mask, and glove. And is that a Vancouver Canucks sweater over your right shoulder?
That's my Hall of Fame.
There's your Hall of Fame. You couldn't tell. You had the right shoulder covering it. That's the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, I was in person for that game. I saw you move kind of in that game.
Yeah.
Right there. So, folks, Razor's got himself a new background. That's one of the new things to this show.
It is new. I kicked one of my kids out of the house. My daughter, who was with her twin brother for 11 years, had enough. So she had to take the other bedroom. I took this bedroom. There's a shelf here, and it was just kind of a perfect fit. So broke out a few things. Not many jerseys in my house. They're all at my parents', but these are the 2 I have. And I'm almost... just seems a little more organized for today anyway.
It's a nice background, and I know you do another show as well, so this is a good background for that.
Cooley loves this background. Loves the background. Yeah,
he's going to absolutely love it. He'll yell at you about it. He'll tell you how much he loves it. He'll probably try and reorganize it himself too if you let him.
Yes, exactly.
Probably. Coolest. Beauty. Love the man. Beauty, though. But it's looking good. My background hasn't changed at all perhaps I could do a little rearrangement. I don't know if it's necessary. What else is new is I did mention the radio show. Folks, Razor and I, if you haven't heard or you didn't get a chance to see or whatever, we now have a regular Saturday spot on WEEI, which is if you're not in Boston, it's one of the two Boston sports radio networks. Boston is really sports blessed that they have got such an unbelievable following of fanatical fans, and they have the two sports radio stations. Did a lot of work with 898.5. You've done work with EEI. Time, contracts, contraction, etc. Cutbacks at one place lead to opportunity at another. And you and I are doing Morning Brew Saturday with Jaffe and Razor, or Saturday Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor on WEI from 8 to 9 live, which you can pick up, folks, whether you're obviously in Boston or you can stream it out of town. But also, we're going to repurpose it as a podcast afterwards as well. So every Saturday, we will have a pod coming out. So keep an ear out, or even an eye for that. I do believe they're going to have video capabilities for that starting in a week or two. So that's nice as well. I mean, it really worked out beautifully. And I don't know if we've reached the big time, but we've reached an opportunity to just try something new. And first run at it the other day, I thought went really well.
I agree, and lots of excitement about it. I've got lots of messages, and I think for our viewers or listeners that that's kind of like I'm my hope for it is we get tons of calls Saturday morning, and we can turn it into like middle of the season where we're just kind of going through. We can turn it into 25 minutes of phone calls and
we'll do
listening, and you're driving to the rink or you're waking up and sitting at the TV, whatever it is. Like that's my hope. This is hard for us to interact with everybody because we're just two slugs on the podcast doing it on the computer, but that can be interactive. That's my hope. And it's fun to sit together for an hour on Saturday morning.
I would agree. We will always, last week we had a couple of calls that came in. It's going to take a little time to kind of get the freight train out of the station, so to speak, and then I think it'll take off.
You agree whether it's not helping us either?
No.
In hockey thought perspective, I mean, this was a weekend not to be in your car driving around. It was a weekend to be taking the dog for a walk at 8 a.m.
I wouldn't have argued with that either. And hopefully, though, it'll become everybody's kind of go-to show on Saturday morning. So again, check it out, WEEI. You can go to the app as well. And again, we're going to be repackaging it as a podcast. So we'll get that out hopefully by later in that day, the same day. We will get that out. But otherwise, Razor and I are going to continue to do our thing during the week, 1 to 2 times a week, just depending on what's going on. We both got some travel. Razor's going to be on the road with the Bruins a bit. I'm going to do a little bit of NHL Network stuff, et cetera, here and there. The national radio, when given that opportunity. By the way, doing the Winter Classic. Looking forward to see how that works in Miami. That should be an interesting game, so that'll be fun. But a lot of good stuff. Let's get to it, though. Season preview. Your 25-26 Boston Bruins earlier today come out with their what we know is going to be at least their lineup for Wednesday. I think that's all I think I would say we guaranteed is that we know what their roster will be. Maybe not in their lineup, but their roster.
Yeah. I was going to say
the cuts or waiver assignments would start with Matthew Poitras. Matt Poitras goes to the American League. So does he doesn't have to clear waivers, but the following 4 players need to. Michael DiPietro, the goaltender. We thought maybe they'd have 3. We didn't really think that they would, but they assign him to see if he'll clear. DiPietro has to clear. Goaltender. Mate Blumel, Alex Steves, and Jonathan Aspero are the other players that all have to clear waivers to then be assigned to the Providence Bruins. I think the biggest surprise is Blumel, Mate Blumel, considering where he practiced and where he played in the lineup for the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think people's perhaps biggest disappointment, just guessing, I haven't done the social media thing since the announcement, but I'm guessing is Poitras. Even though I think he had, I think you could say this for all of those players, the same thing, an inconsistent camp. I think people were hoping perhaps that he did just enough to stay up there. I guess the next person would be Mate Blumel, the player that, if you don't know, folks, just a reminder, he's picked up from the Dallas Stars organization as a free agent in the offseason after producing 80 points in the American League last year. Let's start with Patra. He's the big one. I mean, your thoughts on it? I'm going to say right now, it doesn't bother me, him starting there at all. It does not bother me. Because I don't think he did enough, and I still think he needs to go down there and rack it up. I just do.
Agreed. And now thinking about it, and I think we kind of had this right from the start, where the third line center position was a competition strictly between Fraser Minton and Matthew Patra.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of those two guys didn't make that position, it made no sense to keep either of those guys up, because of the business of hockey. Number one, neither of them needed waivers. So when you can send a guy down without waivers, you're at a huge disadvantage in the business of the game, the organization of the game. You go down, you can come back up literally on Wednesday morning, Thursday mornings, Friday morning. Like, it is, you don't have to think about it. And then secondarily, he's still 21, just like Fraser, and they need those guys to play. And people that we hear from all of the time want to talk about developing, and they want to talk about young players getting chances and young players getting better. Well, young players don't I've said this a million times over the last 5. You don't get gifted an NHL job. You just don't. And it is continually tiring for me to hear. But I'm understanding it more and more that that's just the way it is. But you just don't get gifted this job. And Matty Patra has the best opportunity to come back up because he doesn't need waivers in a month and a half. He's in the greatest situation. If he goes down and gets 20 points in the first 20 games of the AHL season, they're going to give him a look. But with hindsight, looking at this camp, it was really down to him or Minton as the third line center. They didn't want to put either of these guys on the wing, and they didn't
Minton
want to
was
make
better.
either of these guys as 13th forwards.
Yeah, but Minton was better too.
And he was,
and
so
thing.
what happened was Minton beat him out in the competition as that centerman. So Matty Patra loses. He goes to the AHL, and he can be a winner soon enough.
I don't want to say I don't think he can play wing at the NHL level regularly, but I really, last year I tried to maybe make myself believe it a little bit more type of thing, but just continuing to watch him, I just don't think that's his sweet spot. If he's ever going to make it as a regular in the NHL.
And there might be a time where you need to force it, but we're not even close to that now. Right? Like, there might be a time where he forces it himself too, where I got to just play in the NHL, like, put me anywhere. He's not there yet. He still has a lot of time to develop. And I agree with that point that he's very much a centerman, and the way his game is played, he just isn't a winger right now.
So were you surprised that Mate Blumel was sent down, given where he practiced and where he played regularly? I thought he had moments of okay to good, and then finally pretty good his last game, where he had 4 shots on goal, I believe it was, felt himself, had a long talk with him afterwards in practice at the other day, and he felt really good and really comfortable. Were you surprised that they didn't keep him up? And by the way, they kept up Johnny Beecher and Jeffrey Viel. Those are the two players they kept. We can get to maybe why they kept those players up in a moment, but let's focus first on Mate Blumel. And were you surprised? I was a little bit. I was, especially considering, and I understand this is going to be an offense by committee team, but if this is a guy that you think can produce more than a few other guys offensively, I thought maybe they'd give him a little NHL runway, at least to begin the season. Like, I wonder, Razor, if he'll clear. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he got picked up by somebody. I wouldn't put money on it, but I wouldn't be surprised. But if they kept him up for a week, 2 weeks, and he didn't do much, and then they sent him down, I think he probably clears easier.
So I went through before I came on. I actually did a little research before I did this. There's 43. 43 guys got put on waivers today
Mhm.
in the National Hockey League. And you could go through that list and I promise everybody, if you go through that list, you'll go through and you'll be like, oh, he's a pretty good player. Oh, he could be on the Bruins. He's better than this guy. You could do it with a dozen of those 43 minimum.
Mhm.
Um, so this waivers thing's also a bit of a dance. And you've been around as longer than I have to know that it's a dance. And a lot of times, everybody knows who's going through. Everyone knows who's coming up. You make a few phone calls to your buddies who are running other teams. What about this guy? If he goes through, what do you think? Like, agents are
Yep.
hammering phones. This is a big dance that is from the outside looks interesting, but on the inside is just formality for a lot of this. So the reality is, out of the 43 guys, there might be 2 or 3 guys tomorrow morning when we wake up that have been
Oh,
moved
I agree.
around or shifted around.
I agree.
So if it is Blumel, then the Bruins. My sense is usually if a guy gets picked up, the team has orchestrated that pickup in a bit of a way. There's very very seldom is there a surprise.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about the waiver wire. When it comes to Mate Blumel, I am surprised. Like, if you had told me that VL was going to be here and Blumel wasn't 3 days ago, let alone 7 or 8, when I was watching Blumel in the second power play unit, when I was watching him get the home game, when I was watching him on the second line, and like, I would have pushed back on that. I would have been surprised by that. So that is the one for me. Everyone else, again, the Poitras thing doesn't surprise me as much because of the non-waivers. But Vial over Blumel right now, I'm curious about. I'm curious how that looks over the next couple of days.
Yeah. It might be a big way to go to Jeffrey Vial, meaning because he performed, he did well. And I understand it's just training camp, and we're not talking a 22-year-old. What is he, 28, turned 29?
Yeah.
And we understand his role and everything, but it might be a real, like, look, man, you did everything and more. You came, is it a reward? Maybe. Is it a message? Probably. I still think, though, maybe, I don't know. It's just interesting to me. Maybe they could have kept one of the young. I thought it would be Mate. I did. I thought it would be Blumel.
The other thing too, that, again, because they have 3 extra guys, and typically they don't hold. I'm curious if with a VL kind of situation, and I'm not going to say.
By the way, they got back-to-back to start the season.
Correct, but I'm all and not specifically him, but there are other teams that have kept players knowing that they were going to get picked up by a team. So I'm curious if Jeffrey VL caught the eye of somebody else, and they don't want to lose a guy like that right now. Mm-hmm. You just saw what happened with Florida and Tampa. You just saw what happened with Ottawa and Montreal. There's teams want tough guys. Jeffrey VL had the best fight of the season last year. Mm-hmm. And then he goes out and scores goals in this preseason. There's a lot more interest in those kind of guys right now in this part of the season, I think, especially after what transpired the last week in the NHL. And I'm curious if they might have got a little birdie telling them this guy
could be gone
out of all of the guys you have. That
you Tampa use them. They got the Sabrin kid. I mean, again, but
it could be some. I don't know. I literally have no idea. I just always, when it comes to this waiver wire stuff, I've been around long enough. I know that this stuff happens, and there's moves to be made and moves not to be made, and people are protective.
What about Beecher? They gave him a 1-year deal. That's all they wanted to give him. It was absolutely a message to him. He knows it. Did we see enough? I mean, it was better at the end.
We didn't even see him on home ice, right?
No. I was a little surprised. Now, we all know this, and we talked off air about this too, as a first-round pick, whether you're number 1 or 30, you get the benefit of the doubt.
You always get another chance.
Yeah, you're always going to get another chance. I think he'd create a lot of kind of waves out there, or ripple effect, perhaps. I could see a team saying, you know what, we will take a flyer on this kid. So I guess from that perspective, doesn't surprise me as much. But lefty face-off guy, but they got Corrali now, and Minton for that matter. But Corrali being a vet, but it's probably just his speed and penalty kill. That's my guess, that they figured, again, back-to-backs. Maybe they figure they can, pop him in there.
Yeah, and they, you look at him compare, with kind of what they have. It's not going to fit perfect, but like you just said, not even just the back-to-back to start, but the 13 of 21 to start the season.
Yeah.
You'd really rather not lose an NHL guy. And Beecher, he's right there on the ledge, but I think he is right now, for the sake of labeling someone is an NHL guy. Out of all the guys that got sent down right now, he's more of an NHL guy than Blumel, right?
He's more of an NHL than Blumel, Steves,
yes,
Patra.
Correct. He just is. So with its size and experience and everything else, so you don't want to lose that guy now. If you have to lose him in October because everyone else is exactly where you want them to be and everything's perfect, and you make that decision because you got through the first month and you're doing well, then that's okay. But you don't really want to do it for nothing before you've played game one. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's probably right. So the extras up front: Jeffrey Viel, Johnny Beecher. On the back end, Jordan Harris. I think that became obvious with his, what I'll call, consistent play, his pretty simple, straightforward type play, and also his ability to play the offside. I don't know if the other, I don't know Aspero's game well enough. I do know that Marco Sturm got to know him well, or at least know his game well as as a head coach in the American Hockey League. His Ontario Reign team played against Calgary, where Aspero played for a couple of seasons regularly, and he liked them there, and very complimentary of him. But maybe he's worked himself into a depth player now for the NHL, Aspero. But Jordan Harris, the local kid, I think he absolutely earned that 7 spot. So this is what we think, or do we think that these are the lines? I know they will have practice tomorrow around 11 or 11:15. We'll probably have a much better idea there. But Elias Lindholm between Morgan Geekie and David Pastrnak. Casey Middlestat in between Pavel Zacha and Victor Arvidsson. On the left, Minton in the middle, and I'm guessing we saw the other night would probably be the way to go, and Michael Eyssimont on the right side. And then you've got Sean Corrali in the middle, Kastelik on the right, and then I would think Marat Husnudinov would get the nod to begin. But depending on, I guess, who you're playing, Jeffrey Viel or Johnny Beecher could flank that twosome on the left side. Your 6D, McAvoy, Peak, Yoki Haria, your right shots, Lohrei, Lindholm, Hampus, that one, and Nikita Zadorov on the left. What is that lineup? What is that? It's not what you would call an offensively imposing lineup. It is going to be a lineup that is going to take an awful lot of cohesiveness, structure. I think ability to play the somewhat boring almost game that, which can be tiring. But on the other hand, this is what they have to do. Is we called it a grind fest on the Saturday morning brew with Jaffe and Razor. But if health is all good, does this what does this team give you vibe wise? What does this lineup give you right now, Razor?
I love the game on Saturday. I know it's a preseason game, but the Rangers had, as much as they could have. Miller and Panarin weren't in because of injury. It wasn't, and beyond that, they had most of their guys. I love I'm pretty bullish on the organization of them. I'm bullish on Hampus Lindholm looking 100% again. So you're right. It's a grind. You're right. I did think the other night that it is hard to play that way 82 times.
It is, man. I'm telling you,
Carolina and these teams, it's hard to do that 82 times especially in a condensed season. But on the flip side of it, you're going to run into teams that aren't as organized, like the Bruins weren't at the start of last season, and you're going to be able to take advantage of those teams. So I'm if that power play can move the puck around against a real penalty kill like they did Saturday night, if they continue to progress with their organization, if McAvoy and Lindholm take a step, if there's a lot of ifs, right? Because again, I don't really know what it's going to look like. I don't know what the other teams are like either. That's the other thing too. I just don't have a good sense of what the league is going to look like this year. But what I do know is they're much more prepared for game one than they were 12 months ago. There's no question about that, and they're going to be a whole lot harder to play against for the first 12 games of the season. That you can't unconvince me of.
They're a team that I find them, I kind of vacillate between, all right, they're going to show people with everybody healthy, in particular the two big boys on the back end, and what I hope is a mentally reset Jeremy Swayman. I do. I hope that. Then I think I'm like, all right, they're a team that doesn't give me that high flying vibe, but I'm willing to say if they pick up the neutral zone structure a little bit even more, that what they're doing, the system there, and they get like, I don't say I'm not worried, but I trust Hampus Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov. Actually, I do in the back end there. I'm struggling with Lowry at times, Razor, and if he's going to be out there with McAvoy an awful lot against the opponent's top guys, I want the kid to succeed. I don't give a that he was a minus 43 last year. It's telling the kind of year that he had. That's last year, though. Okay. But can he get it? Can he get that game going to where it allows McAvoy to kind of, I don't need Mason Lohrei to be a stay-at-home shutdown guy, but I need him to be able to handle that and not force his partner back on his heels and everything. So to me, that's where I kind of I look at it and I feel like that could be a big ointment or flying the ointment this year to kind of that position, because Charlie's going to play 24 minutes a game. If he's healthy, right? He's going to, and I don't want to say I'm putting it all on Mason, but it's a huge role if you're playing with that top pair. And I also look at that third line and I say, okay, if Fraser Minten's going to be your center, or even, I guess it's your number 2-3 centers, Middlestat and Minten. That to me is my other kind of flashpoint for this team.
Yeah. So again, you take Saturday night. If Minten and Middlestat do that 70% of the time, the way they played on that Saturday night, everything's pretty good. Lowry needs to take a massive step. I can't say that enough. I will continue. Honestly, it's not even for me to analyze. Like he's at the point you just need to see it. We all know the game. We all know his scenario, and it literally has to be seen before we really dig into that with him. Middlestat showed as best as he'd seen as for me on Saturday. Great play to Zaka. They scored a goal. Again, I wouldn't say this the second preseason game. I'm saying it because the Rangers had Shesterkin in net and they had their guys. And Minten, the great pass to Zadorov. I hadn't really seen that vision and that comfortability out of him. So it's strength down the middle. Lindholm, Minten, Middlestat all played really well on Saturday night, and you get a win. And if they play average or they play a team that has outclassed them at center ice, then that's a lot tougher to win.
And there's teams in their division. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs got a couple of good centers. The Florida Panthers, they had a bunch of awesome centers, but they took a big hit. losing Barkov, and even losing Tomas Nosek as a fourth line center is a big loss for them. So maybe the Bruins, maybe when I say get lucky, you never want to say that, but maybe they get fortunate with regard to some injuries. Let's quickly touch on our sponsors here. Then we're going to hit some D and goaltending and just a couple of other things. Back with us again for another season, Fazenda Coffee. FazendaCoffee.com/morning brew, the place to go. If you want some of the best whole bean or even ground coffee, they'll grind it for you. Go to FazendaCoffee.com. You get the morning brew blend. I mean, I visited them a couple times over the summer, Razor. They got everything there. They just got they got everything there. They've got, from the lightest to the darkest. Check out FazendaCoffee.com/morning brew and go there and enjoy a Fazenda or enjoy a Fazenda blend, because that's what they're all about. Sparks Hockey. Sparks Hockey comes back yet again with Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Razor and I are using ours left and right. I'm happily skating again. The hips are holding up so far, 2 days a week.
Oh, mama.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get called up to I don't know what league, the old fat and slow league. But it's going to happen one day. But check out sparkshockey.com. All different types of radius rings. They've got different machines, etc. Sparks Hockey doing a ton of fun stuff. Sparkshockey.com for the finest at-home skate sharpener that you can buy. And by the way, they've got these great like sleeves now that can cover the machines of your favorite NHL team. So they're very cool. Check those out. Speaking of cool and having fun, Apex Entertainment up in Marlboro. All right, apexentertainment.com, the place to go for 100,000 square feet of pure fun. Go there and check out their location. And also, if you want to do a party or something, you can do it there. They got a great bar. They've got food. They've just got all different types of games for the old people to the youngest. They've got all different type of entertainment. apexentertainment.com. It is located in Marlboro. And, if you're also out of town, they got a few not remote, but out of town locations too. But just, it's go there and enjoy the day. All right. It's a great place for a couple of hours. And if you happen to be playing in a youth hockey game in that area, go to Apex Entertainment afterwards and really tire the kids out. Lastly, let's welcome back Sunset Lake CBD. Razor, I know that you've been enjoying some beverages that they have now. And, I enjoyed those. I had a sample that came and I really liked it. And like a tea, they're not like a tea, it's a tea. They've got beverages now. They've got their tinctures. They've got their gummies. They've got pills. I mean, I got a CBD thing right here that I keep here. They've got a stick you can use for your body. They've got it all. And it's up in northern Vermont, and it's all natural stuff. And they're awesome people. Cy and his crew. I got to meet Rev last year coming into town. Awesome people that love the Boston Bruins, that love hockey, and we love having them back. But I know you've enjoyed their tea so far.
The drinks were awesome, especially in the summer. Perfect afternoon when you're hanging out. Skip the beer, skip the 9% IPA, and cruise with a little mint tea or the iced tea. It was delicious. Perfect.
We'll go to sunsetlakecbd.com to check that out. So somehow, some way, we made that through, Razor, with me.
That was impressive.
It
was all on time, the whole thing.
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing. You know what else is new this year, by the way? Thankfully, I'm not the producer. RC is back. The legend that is RC. He was
Wizard of Oz.
Yes. But you know what we do have this year too? We have something new. I was going to wait to debut it, but I think it's worth bringing out right now. Because this year now, we have the Razor Yawn Count. We have the Razor Yawn Count. Folks, again, if you're not on the YouTube version of it, Razor, after about 10 o'clock at night, seems to hit the wall. Mm-hmm. Actually, doesn't seem to. He does hit the wall. Yeah. And there's usually, I'd say the over-under regularly is 3.5 yawns per show. I don't take it personally anymore. I maybe did for the first 2 shows, but after that, but now we have the Razor Yawn Count. We go all the way up to 5 right now.
Talk about production.
Yes, we do. We have pre-programmed this.
That's Disney type stuff right there.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you get the fun. If you don't, trust me, it says Razor yawn count, and we go up to
Especially
the
on
number.
Saturdays, like that 8 a.m. is that
Oh,
is go time for me on a Saturday rather than 10:30 at night on a Saturday.
Oh yeah. You're good. You're good in the morning. You're ready to go. Razor's always up and at. He's ready to get after it. Speaking of being ready, I'm trying to make some kind of segue as we get back to our season preview show.
Wasn't bad.
Is the goaltending ready? Is the goaltending, huge assets, huge things for the team this year. Goaltending, no question, probably number one.
Mhm.
Okay. Number two, special teams. Is that way up to number two? Would you agree? Special teams, power play, and penalty kill have to be both. Number three, I think, would be the reemergence of Elias Lindholm, because if he goes, can he be a 60-point guy? He had 47 last year. Can he be does he get 60 points this year, Razor?
Yes, he will. I'll say that. I think
I'm gonna try and take the over, but it's gonna be close. I need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with me with there's no the problem with with a Mason Lohrei and Elias Lindholm right now is like you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Like David Pastrnak, even when he wasn't scoring at the start of the season, we're like, he's going to get 40, he's going to get 100 points. I don't need to see it. With a few of these guys, you need to see it. And that's what makes analyzing kind of difficult, because I don't want to be flippant about it, but I got to see it. I got to see it. And Elias is on that list for me, one of the, 2 or 3 guys that are on the Bruins. And I think, he had 47 last year. I got to imagine he has 13 more in him, because I think he thought that was a really down year for him last year.
Right. And assuming he plays most of the season with Geekie and Pastrnak, he has to.
Yeah.
Because if he does, he probably gets an extra 10-ish points on the power play.
Correct. Well, that tip shot the other night on Saturday, he gets 10 of those, right? With his eyes closed. Yeah.
So back to the goaltending, though, as I digress.
Yeah.
Okay. You talk about having to see it from Lohrei. You have to see it from Elias Lindholm. Is it unfair to say I got to see it from Jeremy Swayman? I don't think it is. I think that we need to see it. 58 appearances last year, probably 5 too many, probably.
Yep.
We
minimum.
Did talk
well,
about
last year minimum. I mean, there was times early on where you could have rode Jonas, because he was playing really well at the start last season. So minimum 5 less. Yes,
so let's call it 8 to 10. Let's call it 8 to 10. Fine.
Yeah,
fair enough. Great. 52-ish starts or appearances this year. 30 for Jonas Korpisalo would probably be pretty good. I know we discussed that on the Saturday show. We both agreed with that, but I've got to see it from Sway. I do. He talked about it, in the third person and during training camp, about how Jeremy Swayman's in a better space right now. Awesome. Love to hear it. Need to see it. Fair or unfair from a former goalie's perspective? What do you say?
Oh no, he's set him up for that. He set himself up for that after the contract and everything else. Now I do the one difference is we've seen it from him pretty recently in saying, with a Boston jersey on against the Florida Panthers within the last 18 months, 15 months, we saw it.
But again, think about how much changed since then.
Well, no, but you're right. And I said consistently last year, no matter the contract or not, it was going to be a really hard season for him.
You did. I'll give you that.
It just is. That second year so much harder. And the fact that, again, and I don't hold a lot of stock into it, the World Championship thing at the end is helpful going into this season. But of course, it is, of course, he is not a position where he's allowed to have 3 bad months to start the season right now. He isn't. He burned what was in the bank last season with everything that happened, and now he's got to start putting stuff back in the bank. He had his 18-month sabbatical where he traveled the world and he spent all of his funds, all of his savings, and now he's got to start his job at the startup again and start working through it. For the real life analogy, or if that's even a real life analogy, I wouldn't know, but that's how I see it with Jeremy, and that there's no question he has to put it on the table right out of the gates. I really liked his game Saturday. I really liked him filling space. I thought he was more relaxed. I didn't think he was pressing in any way whatsoever like we saw last season at times. And this is big. Everything in front of him is much more organized. There's no breakaways. There was no 2-on-1s. There was no crazy breakdowns in front of him. That's going to make it easier if they can keep that structure for him to ease into the system and get more confident.
Does he handle the puck well enough to handle it a lot?
He's got to get better. They have to get better at it. They haven't had to because of the way the Bruins played, and right from the start of his career, he just hasn't had to. And that's
going to probably be more dump-ins this year.
No, that's the big takeaway from watching it on the glass 3 times this year, or 2 times over the last 10 days, is that he's going to have to, him and Jonas are going to have to get much better at their reads, and the D are going to have to get much more comfortable sitting on those reads, not swooping towards the net, swooping away from the net, trusting the goalie to make the 10-foot pass rather than coming. They're going to all have to get better at that. I'm curious to see how that works. It with some work and some communication, it should be fairly routine because there's not a lot to ask for, but the reads have to be better than they were through preseason for me, because there are going to be way more dumps.
In theory, if the Bruins execute the 1-2-2 neutral zone, the clog, as Marco Sturm calls it, it's going to result in teams, and understandably so, wanting the goalie or putting the puck into certain areas and then getting out on the forecheck. If the D aren't prepared and if the goaltenders aren't confident, it will lead to issues. We did see it earlier in preseason. I don't remember who that was against.
That was Swayman against Washington. No, Philly. The backhand behind the net.
Yeah, the backhand. Too soft.
That's a backbreaker. You can't do that in the regular season. So hopefully.
So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
Correct.
Korpisalo, I think he did his job. Haven't had a chance. I talked to Swayman once this preseason, only because I think I've said it on this show a few times. I don't really go into the room much during training camp until it's done, and then I start talking to the guys more. Yeah. Jeremy, by the way, got engaged, so I did congratulate him on that. So that's nice. We talked about that for a little bit, had some chuckles. And Korpisalo, didn't get a chance to talk to him, just said hello. But he's he's been in the league for a long time now. He won the job, and DiPietro didn't do enough to steal it, that second job. So he kept that. But I could see, and I know, again, we did discuss this specifically on Saturday's show. I could see 30 games for Korpisalo.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't bother me.
No, it almost has to be with the way the schedule is this year. Because he's playing one of the first 2 games, that's for sure. Right out of the gates. Let
me ask you this. So you're the starting goalie.
Razor. I don't know.
You're Razor, and you are Razor, but you're Razor. You're back in 2004, 5, 6, whatever. Prime time, sweet spot Razor.
Yeah.
And you got back-to-backs to start the season. You're the number 1 goalie for the Boston Bruins. You're on the road against a pretty good team. Opening night, national TV. I don't know if that matters to you, Razor, or not, but you're on the road. You got Ovechkin on the other side. And you're like, ooh, I'd like to play. Well, wait. The next night, you're back home, opening night, against an original 6 team, and it's just opening night at home. And then you have a day off, and then you play Saturday. Of the starter, you're going to play 2 of the 3. Which one of the first 2 do you want?
Well, So 2006 Razor took both of them and said, I'm playing both. I'm playing at home against Ottawa, and I'm going on the road and I'm playing against Ottawa. I'm not giving up either one of those.
Okay.
Game's changed a little bit since then.
Analyst Razor then.
Analyst Razor. In Dallas, I was in Dallas, and we played at home and then went on the road the next night. I played on the road. Kari played the home opener. I went on the road and played the Blackhawk home opener. So I thought about this the other Saturday night. I'm curious. I don't know. That's the analyst answer. I don't know which way they go. I guess
which one would you want? Which one would you? I think I would want the opening night game. I do. As much as I would want to play at home in front of the fans. I still think opening night, first game.
Yeah, I think so. And then you get the Saturday night at home anyways.
Right.
Like the home opener is like, and I guess the other thing too, if you're setting it up as a team and you're setting it up as like, you're looking at it from a coach's point of view, Chicago's not in your division. Chicago should be the easiest of all the teams. So yes, you're still going to get serenaded when you get called out to the blue line. Number one, Jeremy Swayman, you get that, and then you can sit on the bench. So that would be my guess, is that Korpisalo, and then you come back and you have another division game, a big division game, a team that you think you're kind of right in the mix with in Buffalo on Saturday night. You can set the tone with a win there. I think you go Swayman, Korpisalo, Swayman. That would be.
I would agree. Yeah. I think so too, and I think you want to be in that first.
The first game, you want to start the season. It feels odd waiting and sitting and holding, hedging or holding out for the next night. It doesn't really make sense to anybody. They all want to play the first game.
All right, so we mentioned Swayman as a goaltending, but in particular, Sway is a huge factor. No doubt, we agree about that. The reemergence of Elias Lindholm. Mega important for the success of this team. I think Casey Middlestat stepping up in some way or form, his compete level, his presence out there is another significant. It's not like earth-shattering analysis here, partners. We're talking about being strong down the middle, but I think this for this team to have a chance to qualify for the playoffs, that's going to have to happen. And I think that's where they are, Razor. I don't know about you. I think that they are an eight spot, because I still think that a couple of teams in their division are already better than them, even with the injuries in Florida. I just think when it's all said and done, Florida, Tampa, and Toronto are better than them. I just do. So after that, you're battling with Montreal and Ottawa. I think they can if things go well. But that's probably their high mark this year, which I'm actually okay with if they continue the retool, right? But anyways, I think Middlestat has to be. I think he has to. If he doesn't emerge, then, I don't know what to say anymore.
No, it's so different, because you just could, like, again, when we started this, we talked on Saturday when we started the show and COVID, and like 2021, I could count on basically almost their entire lineup. I could count on what it was going to be. And then the analyzing part of it was putting it together and comparing it to other teams and looking at their schedule. And when they had injuries, how could they, this is like, these guys have to show or not. I don't know how they're going to show. If they show great, then they're okay. If they don't, it's just a different way of trying to break this down. And I would agree. I'm kind of, if Middlestat, if all these guys do great and they get into 88 to 92 points, 6 games over, 10 games over NHL 500, now you're in the mix. I don't see a scenario where they have 110 in any way, or 100. I think they're in that mix. I don't see a scenario where they're at 70 either. I don't think they're 12 games under NHL 500. I think they're in that 4, 5, 6, and they have to find a way to get the 3 or 4 or 5 more throughout the season. That's to jump a Montreal. I think Ottawa is going to be good. I think Tampa is going to win the division. I think Toronto could be interesting regular season wise, but no, when it comes down to this Bruins team, they need these guys that we've talked about to hit expectations, to hit their level again that they didn't hit last season, to get themselves into a +6, +10 scenario.
All right, as we wrap this one up, I'm just going to just throw out some names and like a figure. We'll do kind of like a high, low, over, under, whatever, just to have a little fun with it as we just look at some things. Geeky, does he get 40 goals this year? Does he break last season's total? Well, let's go there. Let's go 35, plus or minus 35.
Minus.
Yeah, I think he's
he's
just
33. Yeah, but even I was going to say 31.
Okay. Pastrnak, 106 points last year. Was it tied for third, if I remember correct, overall in the National Hockey League? Plus or minus 100. I say he breaks 100 again.
He breaks 100. He's done it 3 years in a row. He'll do it again. Plus 100.
Arvidsson last year. We haven't talked Victor Arvidsson. There's another guy. I watched him a lot during the playoffs. He was in and out of the lineup. I'm not quite sure. I got to see more. 15 goals last year. Considered a down year for him. I think he's had 20 plus goals 5 times, over 30 in his first or second full year in the NHL. But does he break 15 goals this year?
Yes, he does, because he gets more opportunity than he would have in Edmonton last year.
I hope he does, because then I think that means that the power play is getting a little bit better. Tanner Jeannot, he had a bunch of goals his first year. I'll give you 2 numbers for him. Does he break 15 plus minus 15 goals? And how many scraps do you think he gets in this year?
Minus 15 goals, I'll say 13. Scraps, 8.
I'm going to go 10 scraps.
Okay.
Even though I think after a while you have a hard time finding somebody to go with you. And Kastelik is more than happy to go with anybody.
Yeah,
right?
That's his right. Kastelik's going to take 5 of them.
Maybe, right. But I'm gonna say that Jeannot's going to try and make a mark this year. I'm going to say like 12 goals.
Yeah.
10, 12 goals. Fraser Minten. Do you think that he gets 60 games or more?
Plus.
Does he get to that? Yeah, above that.
He's an NHLer. He's gonna be an NHLer.
Okay. I'm gonna go above that as well. Yeah, obviously learning curve. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious.
So though, just quickly with Fraser, I know we're running late now. He's well insulated in that third, fourth line area with a Corrali, with a Jeannot, with a Husnadi, like these guys. I don't think he's a kid who's going to make the same mistake more than once.
Okay. And you might kind of jumble up those bottom 6, move them around. You can protect them there as well. Watch his minutes. I see him as a 14-minute a game, 13-minute a game type guy. Mason Lohrei, last year, 33 points, minus 43. I'm going to take the under on the plus minus. I'm going to take that.
Me too. But that's not saying much.
Right. I'm going to go on a limb.
Yeah.
Points. Do we have a defenseman this year between Lohrei, McAvoy, or Hampus Lindholm that breaks 40 points? You have to, don't you?
You have to. Well, that was going to be my answer, is you have to. And that kind of goes into the whole narrative of the 88 points or 94 points.
And the power play going from,
if you're going to be anywhere near the bubble, then you need 1 or 2 of those guys to have 40 points.
I'd like to see one of them push 50 and then 2 of them hit the 40 to 42 point mark. Last year, now I know Hampus was hurt pretty much the whole year.
Yep.
Power play 15%. Does it make it above that this year?
Yeah, it was so putrid last year. They've got a new breath back there, and they were stuck a little bit in their old ways. So they'll be well over 15%.
I think the only way they are well above is if one of their defensemen really takes more control of it and shoots a little more. Hampus will. Charlie still needs to, in my eyes, move, shoot.
15% is really bad though nowadays, Billy. Like, it's not right. Like,
I know that. I know that
teams leading are 30.
Well, okay. Well, they've got, Evan Bouchard and, and
McDavid.
and Quinn Hughes, and and
We have Pasta. Again, that's
different. He's
I
the
know.
finisher. You need a facilitator.
I know.
Better.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we both agree on not on a lot of most of these things. We already talked about points, etc. All right. Is there anything major? I mean, a couple of quick comments, questions. Let's get to those since fans did send those in, and then we will finish this off. And I would have done it sooner if I didn't forget. Sometimes I just suck. There's one from Hampus Lindholm. Ignoring the bottom 6 acquisitions in the offseason, if Lindholm, McAvoy, Swayman all return to their form from a couple seasons ago, would that alone be enough to push the Bruins back into playoff contention? I would say yes, it would be. It would be the major catalyst, I think, that would get them at least into contention. You agree?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. CJ Kelly wants to know, trade best option right now for Patra and the Bees. Sturm sees him as a center, and there's no room for him on this roster. Lindholm and Middlestat, their contracts mean that they're playing regardless. As a result, the Bruins want Minton at 3C. Potsy is in a 4C. We agree. Then add Hagens into the mix. So is it best for Patra to be traded? I would say no, not yet. But I do think, if you go back to the beginning of our show, that the American League is the best spot.
Yes. Agreed. Way too early to be talking trade. We could see this kid running the power play by Christmas if it goes his way in the minors. There's lots of, like, we're a little early for that.
Okay. Use the Tylenol, the name of this. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. On
this podcast
at Onset Bruin 333. Use the Tylenol. Interesting. Okay. Do you think the Bees will go on an entire season without someone wearing a C on their sweater? A physical C, meaning an actual C.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be a bad thing per se. Leadership by committee. In the past, even with Z or Bergie wearing, we still had a room of leaders. And congrats on the new season of Brew. Thank you. Could I see them going a whole season without it? Yes. By the way, they're one of 2 teams to start the year without a captain. The other, San Jose Sharks. Understandably so. I don't know how Macklin Celebrini isn't the captain there he's Jonathan Taves there in a year, right? 20 years old, he'll be the captain. My take. We've talked about this already I'm not bothered by them having A's. It seems like, emphasis on seems, Pasta, McAvoy, and Hampus Lindholm seem to be the regulars. I could see Elias Lindholm getting one as well. And there's probably 2 other type players, but those 3, 4 for sure. It doesn't bother me right now at all. Could I see him going the whole year without a physical C? I could. I actually could. You? I'm not saying they will, but I could see them doing it.
Yeah, I actually don't see them. I don't see a scenario where they can go and name someone a captain at this point. If they were going to do it, it would have been before today. Well, maybe Monday or Tuesday it comes out, like all of a sudden they just announce it. Maybe they have that up their sleeve. But if I don't hear a captain announcement before Wednesday afternoon, then I don't think there's a time within the season to give someone the captain. I think that's what it is. We're going to go and we're going to roll through the year and see what comes out. I'm not bothered by it. I wouldn't want this to happen 2 years in a row. Like, I want them to make a decision at the end of this year, but I'm okay with everything that's gone on over the last 6 to 15 months with this organization and the leadership that's left the room. I'm okay with just settling in and seeing what you have in that respect.
I would agree. And I just don't think you need to make, I don't think if the guys that would be up for it would be a bad choice. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you need to make that choice yet.
No, exactly. And once the season gets going, there's not enough time to worry. Like, I don't think we're going to talk about it. Who cares? Yeah. Like, we're just not going to, it's not a thing.
They know that there's a group of leaders. There are a group of leaders. You have a new coach. Got a couple of new voices actually in coaches with both Marco Sturm and Steve Spott. So you got a lot of guys that are being vocal right now, and you got a lot of players. And let some other players find their voice too and settle in. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The big deal, though, that we're done. We kept it to 1 hour. which is what we wanted to do. Normally, as you folks know, Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor is about 35 to 40 minutes. That's what we look to keep it at here. Going in a little meaty one, season preview show at an hour. I'm sure there's something we missed, something we should have gotten to, didn't get to, but we'll get to it at some point during the season. Thanks to our sponsors for this one, Fazenda, Sparks, Apex, Sunset Lake CBD. Please visit all of them and show your support for them. They're awesome people, wonderful hockey fans, and just love dealing with them. So thanks to them for being back. Razor, we're coming up. We got shows this week, bud. What do we decide? Thursday night, right, is going to be Wednesday night is going to be, we're going to do a show after that one, and Wednesday, and then we're going to be back at it Saturday. So we'll keep you updated, folks, on what we're going to do.
We're back on the radio Saturdays, right?
Saturday. That's right. Remember, Saturday, 8 to 9 live on WEEI. Go check out the app if you don't have it, or tune in if you're local. 8 to 9 a.m. We got that the show, and we'll take some calls as well there. All right, it's going to wrap up this season preview. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. 2025, here we come. Let's hope for a little better, a lot better than last year. And as always, enjoy your coffee.